I think what I keep seeing and what I keep experiencing is the ability to actually use those levers as a way to actually activate conversation, like to
Yeah,
take the weight off the coach. You know what I mean? Like
completely.
that you
Yeah.
don't need to know, like use these levers to be able to bring voices in that in different ways to invite conversation.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Britton, and welcome to the Coaching Money Podcast. I've been on a mission for the last 20 years to expand the coaching conversation to many. Along with my co-host, Evana Valle, we're going to be exploring coaching as it relates to conversations, connection, and change in both personal and professional settings. Coaching Money is about creating empowering and thought-provoking spaces for conversation which strengthen relationships and enhance results. Throughout the Coaching Money podcast, we'll share tools, practices, and approaches to support you in your conversations, one dialogue at a time. So here we are, we're at the end of 2025, and today's episode is going to take a look back at some of the themes of group and team coaching this year, whether it's been vantage points from the insight of the coach, whether it's been thinking about our clients, whether you can now think about where your journey led you. Hindsight is very different than foresight. So we're looking forward to bringing to you today's episode on 2025, a look back at group and team coaching. So welcome back, Evana. What are you excited about as we go to wrap up this year?
Yeah. Wow. So much has evolved in 2025. I'm just thinking like in the different layers of coaching and the instruments we use in coaching, whether it be AI, which is obviously so top of mind, but also the instruments in a coach's evolution. I'm just thinking about even my own work and how much I've been bringing in creativity, like your charms, dice, like to really open and expand the conversation, to really open that mind. And even just thinking about if I'm looking back at this year in our programs, how different people are showing up, the tools they're wanting, what they need from us, what they're looking for to take their work into the world. It's been a really fun, bumpy at times journey. So I'm looking forward to this conversation and continuing to learn from you.
Yeah, I think 2025 has been seismic shifts in so many different ways, whether it's been the world of our clients and massive changes in the workspace, whether it's been what tools people are using. And I would say at its core, people are still hungry for connection and conversation, which is really the heart of the work of a group and team coach. And I think as I sit down or stand up to really think about today's episode, I think, wow, like it's been a long year in many
Yeah.
ways. It's really been a long year for a lot of our programming. We've evolved Flow Flex Scale, which is for solopreneurs and helping them scale their work because very much I do believe, and we're seeing it already, that solopreneurial businesses, one person shows, will likely be able to cross the $1 billion mark in the coming years, which is exciting, right? I think for a
Mhm.
small business, some of the tools that we have available flatten the playing field in terms of what a one person show can do with tech support. So I think there's been amazing things like that. I also think back, it was only in February that brought forward the whole experiential roadshow, which really feels like it's a huge part of this business. I've always done experiential learning, but it's now that is a big piece on steroids. Tomorrow, one of my mentors is here in Toronto. We step into 2 days of a conference on digital experience design because the fields are continuing to grow, and it does invite us as group and team coaches to really think about what is it that we're creating alongside our clients in the rooms that we're in. What do they want? What do they need? What's the balance for each team that we're working with
Mhm.
or each group? Because I think about the teams that I've been with this year, radically different needs, as always. There's always been different needs, but
Yeah.
especially now more than ever in terms of what they need out of the conversation, but what they also need out of me and my work as a coach. So I'm looking forward to diving into this. And I think what we'll do today is really, we'll spend a bit of time looking at some of the themes of this past year, 2025. And we'll also start, as we've done every year, start to take a look at the upcoming year. I had an email yesterday from someone who said, send me the dates after May because they want to jump in after May 2026. So yeah, we look forward to continuing to serve you as we actually step into the 20th year, 20th anniversary in 2026 of Group Coaching Essentials. We are, I would not even hasten to say, we are probably the longest running group coaching training that still exists with an original founder. So I think that's sort of fun.
That's exciting.
It is exciting.
Wow.
20 years. Yeah, 20 years. So we'll have a lot of celebrations next year. I think there'll probably be something every month. That'll be a different spotlight, a look back, celebration, and maybe a future forward of where we're going. Because the industry is also changing quite radically at the moment, too. And yeah, but let's jump in.
Before we do, I think this is actually really fun because the themes is like what we're talking about is celebration, which is a core competency. And I think it's also, if I'm not mistaken, we celebrated 20 years of potential realized in 2025.
2024 was 20 years and 20 years of Group Coaching Essentials as of January. So Group Coaching Essentials came out 20, isn't that interesting? 20 months into the business, right? It grew out of a program I was running called Retreat and Workshop Essentials, which is really apropos because I think my work that I'm enjoying the most right now is this notion of micro retreat, taking deep dives with teams, with groups, with one-on-one clients, just spending the day like really working on whatever it is. And typically it's their business, which is really neat.
And I think that might even be one of the themes we can even start off with is like that theme of that is what you've adapted. That's your joy. That's your passion, which is important, but it's also what the needs of the market have asked for this year. So I think that like in your work,
really micro, nano, it depends on how small you want to go, but those intensive bursts. And I think everything in the coaching industry is being invited, required, even to really look at how things are done and what can we automate, what don't we automate, what remains the core of really the coaching process and the coaching relationship. At the end of the day, it's a relationship with our clients. Yeah, what are you noticing in your work in terms of temporal, like in terms of time windows, how long people want to engage for, what amounts of time they're focusing? Because I think there's been a big shift. And in fact, the research is showing this around attention and what, say, AI tools and tech tools are doing for cognitive capacity. So we saw this already with digital tools. It's really starting to have an impact for younger people, which makes sense because their neural networks are not as embedded. Their memory is not as embedded. But even in older generations, we're seeing perhaps an over-reliance, as some researchers would say, on some things in the tech stack. And it is having an impact on memory retention, which is where we started in February with the whole Make It Sticky workshop. How do we boost memorability as group and team coaches? So it's interesting. I think I'd said this was going to be a trend, and it really has been a trend of 2025.
And if I even look at my experience of it, you started there and then you really threw yourself into that design experience. And what is that? And I think that is the stickiness. How do we actually allow our conversations, which I think you and I try and do that even on this podcast, to make it be different? How can the conversation we're having here stand out or be sticky that people feel like they're getting something, but they're not overly stimulated, they're not overwhelmed? And I think that's a beautiful reflection of what is being asked for and what's needed in our conversations. It's often feedback that I get in Essentials. Wow, there's so much here. And I have to remind people this is an Essentials and you take what is necessary for you. And I see that in my own conversations, in my own programs, even because I really do the work around like helping people evolve and it's through sometimes it's through transitions that are not their choice. Sometimes it is, whether it be language or relationship transitions. And what I'm noticing is these different groups of people, Italian natives, they want regular touch point because they don't have exposure and access to it. So oftentimes we're meeting weekly and we're meeting even in between or on WhatsApp to keep that activation, to increase that memorability, to actually even increase like the memory recall of what they're learning.
Yeah, it's that muscle memory. It's boosting the muscle memory. I
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think what you're sharing, that intensity, right? It's the intensity. Are we meeting for longer? Are we meeting for more frequent? This year, it was interesting. I went back to doing sort of more intensive work with teams. Years ago, that was definitely a big favorite part of my work, going on site with a team for a few days. Been multiple weeks that I've now been out of the office, which I really love actually. But it is a challenge. It's still a challenge merging the digital and the physical worlds. How do you do that within a practice? Because presence is everything, and it's a different energy to show up in person than it is to show up on the screen. So I think that's another arena, because 2025 has also been the year of return to office for so many places. And there's been, to varying degrees, a pushback, a resistance to that, to varying degrees.
People have left jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, people have left their jobs. We've seen people try and launch their coaching practice because they don't want to go back into the office.
Or they can't. They
can't.
They have been in an industry that has totally, for a variety of reasons, been shifted. And so people are really redesigning themselves, redesigning their lives, and I think turning to meaning. And what we do as coaches, there is a variety of types of coaching, but I think coaching at its core is about human connection, which is a counterpoint to, again, the changes in the world of technology that many people are really experiencing at deep dives. So
I think there's layers to this, because I think for me, when I think about technology, especially when you're doing virtual programming, virtual groups, and a lot of my work was like that. And now, because I've intentionally wanted to create community and bring value to where I live and integrate it. But I think at its core, technology is an activator if used effectively, if used intentionally.
Yeah.
Especially in virtual conversations. That was my entry point into potential
Into this world.
was during the pandemic with virtual facilitation essentials.
Yeah.
And so, what were you gonna say?
I was just thinking, like, VFE, so virtual facilitation essentials, was actually, it was written 9 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, I think the whole way we interrelate and operate on a more societal level has definitely shifted.
Right. And for me, when I think about like our group and team coaching programs, virtual, that overarching connection, technology is actually the tool to do that. It is one of the tools that can support us in doing that.
Completely. And engaging people, right? Not talking but it's really using those engagement levers, which still in 2025, what have people enjoyed in our programming? It is about looking at those engagement levers. It is about differentiating themselves and seeing the joy that people actually leave a call with, because they've connected with self and they've connected with other people as well.
Yeah. But I think what I keep seeing and what I keep experiencing is the ability to actually use those levers as a way to actually activate conversation, like to take the weight off the coach. You know what I mean? Like that you don't need to know, like use these levers to be able to bring voices in that in different ways to invite conversation.
Yeah.
So there's that layer of technology that I think can benefit, is crucial. Actually, I'm going to say this, it has changed my game. That virtual facilitation essentials changed my game in the virtual world. It really did.
Because it puts the power to the individual learner, right? It really puts the power. And that's been another theme of this year, but let's not leave it yet. But how do we, invite voices in the room? How do we really meet people on the multi-sensory, multimodal way. And so this is an interesting sort of sidebar because yesterday I posted on LinkedIn an article that was written by a professor on the multimodal shifts that AI is also making. So again, we as a human species have really prided ourselves on how do we engage across the senses. And I think that's been a theme for us at Group Coaching Essentials this year is how do you widen your toolkit? How do you widen your practice kit? I actually had someone inquire earlier, not that long ago. We were looking at the 5 engagement levers that I've been talking about since 2020, which looks like a soundboard. But it's interesting because the soundboard has arrows up and down. And so the way someone was interpreting it was like, oh, do I want to bring down like over reliance on chat? I said, that's so interesting that you say that at the end of 2025, because a lot of people will get onto a call and they'll just chat. They won't verbally have a conversation, which points to a very interesting debate. Where is meaning created? How do we create meaning, right? Is it through conversation? Coaching is a verbal modality by nature. And so we do want to often reduce over reliance on chat, and that may be the doorway into actually building trust, safety, and connection at the beginning. So I just share that as it's interesting, right? Every group is so different, and it does require then a fluidity on the part of the coach, and our coach is ready to keep growing their muscles. I leave that as a inquiry because one thing I think coaches like everyone else in the world has been battered by so many forces this year. And I think people are tired. And is this asking too much, right? So as a coach, how are you showing up? Where might you need to further expand your capacity and your presence? That may mean doing different work. It may mean retooling how you do work. I am seeing as a coaching supervisor, though, some really interesting capacity issues show up in the part of coaches. So I leave that as an inquiry for people to really sit with, not to make anything wrong, but I think it's important for us to recognize what are our boundaries and what are we bringing in terms of mindset into conversations.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing in all that, when you say mindset presence, is like, are we open? Are we open-minded to what is showing up? Are we agile enough to pivot and adjust and adapt to what is actually here? I think that's where this year, both virtually with the engagement levers, but also with the tools, dice, whatever, is I've been able to expand that agility, adaptability to what is actually needed in the conversation real time. Because I can even speak for myself in this year. Like there's a level of overwhelm, and I think we're all experiencing it. And so I'm thinking like, how can these conversations be different? How can we help people even come in and just have an hour just to go like exhale and be? And that is in our listening, that's in our asking, that's in our inviting, more than in us knowing where we have to get them in an hour. Like they know
And
where
that's
they
not
need
coaching, right?
and that's not coaching.
Yeah. I think
That's
it's
not
very
coaching.
much this year has made it really clear what is the distinction between coaching, meeting people where they're at, and other related modalities. Training, right? Yes, people need skills, and people also need to be heard, which if we look at the reflection of how the workspace has changed to AI, one of the themes that we've been talking about today, and I know you've got some interesting things on this, is like, what is a reflection and what is a creation? That's a big divide that's starting to open up within the landscape of what is original versus what is regurgitated. So I always think about my old teachers who were like, we don't want to regurgitate in creativity. We want to create something new. But I know you've got some interesting stuff on this.
Yeah, well, because if I can share, like what I'm even in the themes or the trends that I'm seeing in our programming this year, and even if I reflect on my own, I mean, like I'll speak for in my own experience. I've noticed a fine line of over dependency on AI, on ChatGPT, which I'm like, I've had to pause and go, okay, you have experience, you have wisdom. It's in working with one-on-one clients or with groups that can inform some of the direction as a starting point, you know? And yet what I've noticed with myself and even with clients, like now that there's AI, there's an over leaning on AI, which takes away from the genius and the originality and the creativity that we as humans can only have if we allow ourselves the space time to actually be with that. So while I say that, what are your thoughts? Because I'm going to prompt, because I went to AI, but I want your thoughts on.
Yeah, well, I think one of my clients said it really, really well. They're a team that uses Chat GPT. Well, not even just Chat GPT. They use a suite. They use a tech stack of multiple enabled tools. And that's been their choice. And it's interesting though, because often we've been working together in this engagement for about 6 months. And in the summer, we were designing something and I suspected this was happening, but they would ask me to design, right? So I would design as Jen human, and then they would also go to their AI. And at one point, one of the leaders said, I so appreciate that you are bringing nuances that just don't exist. I bet you knew that I was doing this. And they're like, uh-huh. And he's like, yeah, I've been running prompts in the background to see what would it suggest, but actually I like what you're providing much better. So it is nuance, right? It is refinement. And I'm not saying that we don't not use it, because one of our most popular programs this year has actually been the coaching boosters around the AI enabled coach. And I think as a business, back to where I started this, as a solopreneurial business, AI can do amazing things with a lot of the repetitive grunt work that does exist in a business. It allows me to do things that I don't need to spend a lot of time on. And from an automation standpoint as well, it's always it's always changing. So also it's adding more work in different ways. So there is a plus side and a downside. I think we are an AI enabled organization. We work with coaches to help them be AI enabled. I don't believe that we have to grow 100-person businesses. Like from the day one of this business in 2004, we are a lean, mean organization. It's not adding like armies of people. It's really about doing the work that matters. And part of that is using the enablement tools of AI. But back to your point, if I'm as a creative, I want to create originality. As you people have heard me say in the past 2 years, when I first started using ChatGPT in 2022, 2023, it was shocking to turn and ask it to talk about group coaching, because I felt like I was hearing myself. And why was I hearing myself? Because as we found out, my original books were fed to the machines, right? And that's not new original content, right? We are seeing across the landscape of group coaching a lot of imitation. Imitation is not what people need. They need originality. Every client is different. And so I would actually beg coaches to, in the realm of group coaching, because it is my area of expertise, to question a little more about what is needed, because the over-reliance on models that I am seeing as a coach supervisor, as a coach educator, as a researcher in this field is shocking some days. Do not replicate. Like that is not coaching. Coaching is generative. It's in the moment. It is with your client. They need to direct what this work looks like, sounds like. It's not a formula.
No, I think that's really, really important to state, because I think that's what keeps us as coaches, as group coaches, in the conversation. So let me tell you, so I went to AI because I was really confronted with something. around the use of AI when it comes to creative processes like mind maps or
Yeah.
cue cards to really
Yeah.
kind of start that generation of thinking, of programming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was like, okay, like how do I help? Like how do I discern this for myself, let alone support others in understanding this? So I thought, so
Mm-hmm.
I went to AI. I'm like, AI, you tell me where that distinction is. So this is ChatGPT, and there's three parts to it. It says, but really it's that human insight equals contextual intelligence. And ultimately, it says AI has no inherent understanding of people, culture, or context. It can generate volume, but not only to humans, but only humans rather can generate meaning. So
Mm-hmm.
we are the ones who, through our interactions, through our engagements, we are
Mm-hmm.
the ones that can see patterns. We can feed those patterns to AI and it might give us some thoughts, but
Yeah.
it can't tell us what people are actually, do I mean? Like it's not there to do that.
Yeah.
It's not there to do that. And from a creative process, it says AI is a cognitive amplifier. So AI's value is not originality, what you just said,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an acceleration, it's in pattern surfacing, it's an optionality. I use AI when I have tons of information. I say, okay, consolidate this,
Person. Yep.
parse
Mm-hmm.
it down for me, right?
Yeah.
Help me get like out of the clouds and get some tangibility in this. Great, right? It says
Yeah.
AI gives you breadth. Your creativity gives you depth, which is
Mm-hmm.
what we talk about, right? It is there is a balance of that breadth, but there's also the depth. I think of like below the waterline, like
Yes.
the depth of
Completely.
who, like that inner world, that inner working. And then the third piece is creativity and equals integrative synthesis. And it
Mm-hmm.
says here, AI can draft, but only you can decide what is true, useful, and aligned. And this is
Yeah.
obviously my languaging based on the language I speak.
Well, yeah, you've trained it.
Yeah, how I've trained it. But to me, I really hear that it's like we can decide what is true. But I hear that like you meaning in this context with our clients, like the client can
Mm-hmm.
decide what is true, useful, and aligned, what serves
Yes.
them, what's
Yeah.
going to support them in their momentum. And in our work as coaches, they come to us, but we're not the expert, we're not the trainer, we're there to hold that space. And I
Yeah.
think that's the dance that we're like, I find myself dancing and say, okay, I'm in that space. And how can I leverage AI in a way that still though keeps me in that space of creating the container and
Mm-hmm.
not being
Mm-hmm.
dependent on AI to tell me what the container is?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, there's no empathy, there's no intuitive capability. It really is what we have developed and really doubled down on as coaches. And those are the skills that we teach others. It's coaching skills for everyone, for leaders, for other creatives. So there, I think what we're raising in today's episode is just invitation for people to think about what are they doing in the room with their clients? What is needed? What are clients asking for? Where might it be beyond what we offer in coaching as well? So I go back to where I started with this work 20 years ago, right? This is one of many modalities to help people do their best work in an ever-changing world.
Yeah.
And we want to keep looking at that and asking, where is this valued? Where is it valuable? What does it look like? Some things may need to shift, other things you may need to double down on. And I think really as we step into the 20th anniversary of Group Coaching Essentials, it's going to be a fun year to look back at some of the evolution, because I think about people who went through our programming 2004 to 2007, they went and established programming that is now also integrated. I think about speaking to the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches, that they really built upon a lot of our work. And it's exciting to see how people are integrating health and wellness group coaching, which is really being seen as one of the next frontiers of growth. Because what do humans need? Humans need connection. We need to be getting better. We want to leverage what AI can bring to expand longevity, etc. So there's a lot here. Again, I think as group coaches, our work is all about the human. It's about the connection. I'm excited to bring out some of the work, the writing that I'm doing right now, which you've touched on as well, right? It is about creating meaning and making sense of the world in an ever-changing environment. And that is the work of the group coach. It is about connecting people to self, connecting people to others to learn and grow with and from each other. And sometimes that other is also an agent. And that's an increasing element I've seen in the team coaching work that I do. Agents are a part of the culture of organizations. And so, what does that partnership look like? What and how do we partner to retain or amplify our humanness in pursuit of growth, of profitability in a radically changing world?
Yeah.
So,
For me, what I'm hearing, not in through your words, but for myself, is being informed, using AI as a form of inform, but also not ignoring and not dismissing the inform that comes from our participants, that comes from our clients, that really is at the helm, at the center of
at the
what,
heart.
yeah, thank you, at the heart of what we're talking about. So there's a place,
Mm-hmm.
as you even said, even in team coaching, you're seeing it, organizations, like there's an
Mm-hmm.
agent. So there's that, like there is a presence of that. And just as much as there's that, there's also the presence of the humans that are in the room.
Yeah. We've always been a digital organization. We've always been virtual first, remote first. And I think it goes hand in hand. How do we help people do better work easier without a lot of the trappings? We're a future forward organization. And I would hasten to say what the work can look like. If anything, I think it's going to carve out a more important part for the work of creativity, of the conversation sparkers. That is what people are enjoying, right? That is the piece of the work that people are remembering because cognitive capacity is the muscles are getting weaker, right? I'm a cognitive psychologist by training, and we've known this for decades on decades on decades. If you don't use it, you will lose it. And we're seeing that. It's just like the shifts we saw in 2020, 2021, cognitive overload with people on Zoom, retention issues. This is what we talked about earlier this year in the whole experiential roadshow. If you're not inviting people, if you're not engaging people in a digital space, they're not getting the same learning experience. It's a shallow learning experience that gets forgotten very, very quickly. And we're seeing that again. Just research came out within the last month on more digital retention, longer term studies for young people. And they're the first generation that learned on laptops. So again, it's having significant impacts, but that's also against the backdrop now of some of those young people getting into the workforce and entry level jobs not even being there. So what does that mean? What do people need to grow? Seeing this firsthand as a parent of someone in university midstream, his program of study is growing and is not going to be disrupted. It's only going to be enhanced, but he has many colleagues that their job future is they're going to have to redesign themselves already. And isn't that, it's what I heard. You're going to have 5 careers in your lifetime. Maybe we have 5 careers a decade now. I don't know. But it's certainly inviting all of us to be more agile.
Well, I think it's inviting us to be agile, but it's also inviting us to go, okay, what makes me as the human stand out? How can I differentiate myself? I'm even thinking as you were saying all that, I'm like, that was a big thing that I actually did this year. I created a kinesthetic system for my English coaching clients. And so
Nice.
I introduced it to a new client last week, and she shared, I've been knowing English for, like, I did schooling 40 years ago, but this process, this touching of cards that also have color associated to it, I now understand this, I've never been able to understand in an hour.
Yeah.
And so I'm using AI. I'm using AI to inform me how to actually use this for different opportunities within a conversation.
Yeah.
But that system was mine created to be able to generate also retention, right?
Yeah.
That the color retention is like that. It's that stickiness. How do we make
It is the
things stick?
stickiness.
it's that stickiness. So it's like there is a role for us. And sometimes, especially in the world of AI that is not going away, but what makes us different? I've heard of people say, oh, well, language, that's all going to be AI. Hold on, but what makes me different than
Mhm.
AI? Like, yeah,
Mhm.
they can go do these Duolingos and all this stuff, but
Oh,
how
yeah.
can I use these things as added value rather than competition?
It's a different experience. It
It's a
goes back to
different
experience.
experience.
Yeah, we are well moved into the experience realm, right? And I say this as a certified experience designer now, right?
Yeah,
That has been my focus this year, and I think that is going to be a continued piece that really differentiates. And there are digital experiences as well as physical experiences. So we do need to
absolutely.
also meet people where they're at because we have people living in both realms. And
Mhm.
again, the world will continue to
Yeah.
grow and evolve in all these different realms.
And I
So
think that's a great, if I may, and I think that's where we, with our core competencies, like that's where we have to continue to grow, learn, and evolve as these things
absolutely.
in the world of change, whether it be
Yeah.
based on what's happening in your part of the world or the greater world, or even environmentally. Like, how are we
Mhm.
adapting to this? Like, we have to evolve our conversations based on what is coming into the conversation and integrating these tools, these technologies to support us, but it doesn't take away from who we are and what we can offer. And
Yeah.
if you don't know what makes you different, then I think that's the inquiry.
It is the inquiry, and that's at the heart of the work that we do as coaches.
Yeah.
So I think we've had a really stimulating conversation today. Again, we've come into the landscape of what I call the connection architect. We're getting into the experience design realm. This is my writing for the month of 2025. Nano, but it's no longer nano. It's Nov Nov. It's November Novel Month. And I think it's fun. And I look forward to seeing and being part of the conversation that continues to move the needle forward on what group and team coaching and the coaching of many looks
Mm,
like in the future, because the human connection that is at the core of coaching many is not going to be replaced. Unlike one-on-one coaching, where we're seeing a lot of disruption in a group and a team coaching space, people are coming because they want to be connected to other humans. They want to be connected to peers. They
yeah.
want to hear their own voice in the beautiful melody of being with other people. Again, thank you for being listeners this year. And we look forward to having you join us in 2026 for celebrations throughout the year, 20th anniversary of Group Coaching Essentials, real milestone. And as much as things have changed, they do remain the same as well. Final comments from you, Ivana, as we go to wrap up.
How can you be friends with technology, but also how can you carve your own way based on what's showing up in your rooms? So,
Mm.
using technology as an activator to support the conversation that you are holding in your rooms or around the kitchen table or in the organizations you're doing team coaching in.
All right, everyone. Happy New Year. We look forward to many more conversations with you in 2026. Have a great one.